Most Percy Jackson fans say that Percy is the strongest demigod, but is that actually true? This will have a lot of spoilers for the Percy Jackson in the Olympians books and the Heroes of Olympus books. Now, instead of talking about all the battles and accomplishments of the demigods, I'm going to talk about what actually makes up a powerful demigod. Point 1. Weapon skills. This shows that a demigod can fight in combat without the use of powers, but instead with just their skills. Percy. Percy is currently the best sword fighter in the entire Percy Jackson world. And when Percy first came to Camp Half-Blood, he only had natural sword fighting skills, already being close to Lucas Stellan's level, who was at the time the best sword fighter in Camp Half-Blood. And after Percy had some training, he overtook Luke and became the best. Annabeth. Annabeth uses a dagger, not a sword, unlike most demigods. Although, you have to be very skilled with a dagger because you have to get up close to your enemy, and that takes a lot of skill. Although, her dagger was said to always protect the user wielding it. Not sure if that counts as a power, but I'll let you guys decide in the comments. Jason. Jason's sword skills are very unexplored as we mainly see power-involved fights and smart plans with no weapons. But I assume with all of his time at Camp Half-Blood, he was trained with his sword, but on the few occasions, like when he had to disguise as an old person, when he used his sword, he was decently skilled with it, but not enough to wow anyone. Piper. Piper is untrained with weapons, and with her small training over time, she wasn't very skilled with her dagger, being one of the weakest characters, especially because, like with Annabeth, a dagger or a knife requires a lot of skill. But we can't bash her too much because she didn't grow up being trained in one of the camps like the other 6 demigods. Or, I should say 5, because Leo didn't either. Frank. Frank is very skilled with all weapons as he's a son of Mars, the god of war. And Frank is most skilled with a bow, and he's extremely skilled while he has the blessing of Mars. But powers don't count in this, so I only account for his natural and trained skills, in which he's up there in terms of skill. Hazel. Hazel, partly like Jason, is more of a power user. She's not particularly great when it comes to weapons, like she has a Sparta, but she is not very skilled with it, somewhat like Piper, but maybe slightly better or worse. Leo. Leo is an amazing mechanic, although he is not much of a field guy, and when he is, he mostly uses his powers, or a machine like a bomb. The most weaponized thing he used was a hammer, which I don't think would help much against a sword. Point 2. Other demigods' opinions/thoughts. This shows the effect of the powers in a demigod and their auras alone. Disclaimer, I will only be using one demigod's opinion for each demigod, otherwise it would make it very confusing for you. Percy. We're going to use Hazel's opinion for Percy. Hazel, when she first met Percy, thought he was a Roman god in disguise because of his very powerful aura. And she thought that Percy was the strongest demigod she's ever seen after Percy took down the Gorgons in Little Tiber when he was entering Camp Jupiter. Annabeth. For Annabeth, we're going to use Leo's opinion. Leo, when he first met Annabeth, he was intimidated because then she had lost Percy, and she just always looked fierce and angry, especially with her stormy grey eyes, which is hard to look at and not be intimidated. Leo, while being intimidated, also had respect for Annabeth's intelligence. Jason. We're going to use Annabeth's impression of Jason. Annabeth saw Jason as a puzzle to solve, as he had lost his memory, but Annabeth also saw the natural leadership inside Jason, and as a son of Zeus, she definitely saw that he had power. Piper. I'm going to use Annabeth's impression for her. Annabeth was a bit skeptical at first, thinking that Charmspeak would be an unreliable power. But she did have respect for Piper's bravery and loyalty, as well as her resourcefulness. Frank. Obviously, we're going to use Hazel. Hazel saw Frank as a strong, fierce warrior, with a baby face. Aside from that, she saw Frank as a kind and powerful, and a bit clumsy, make that very clumsy, demigod. Hazel. Obviously, we're going to use Frank for Hazel. Frank saw that Hazel was strong and very determined. He also saw the bravery in her, and the kindness, and of course her insecurities, and her having her second life after walking through the doors of death. Leo. I'm going to use Percy's POV for Leo. Percy had distrust as, at the time, Leo had just bombed Camp Jupiter. Of course, he didn't actually know that Leo was being mind-controlled, but after that, he saw Leo as a funny, smart kid with quite powerful powers, and he saw the similarities in terms of their demigod life. Point 3. Unshown Power. This shows how powerful a demigod actually is, because these demigods have a lot of power that's most likely there, but they have never used it in the books. Percy. Percy has used a lot of different powers over the books, and his powers are extremely powerful, but surely if he can control all the liquid, then he can control blood, and the blood inside other demigods. Aside from that, Percy has so much more powers that he could use, but doesn't. Like, he could probably make hurricanes, or I think he has, but he just doesn't that often. And he could probably also make thunderstorms and a lot of different things. He has made a tidal wave in the series, but I don't think he's ever made one besides maybe blowing up a mountain, which I think if he can do that, there's a ton more he can do. Annabeth. Annabeth's only powers is intellect and weaving, which isn't all that useful. And I don't think there's much for her to get or hidden powers that she could use. Jason. Jason, with the powers mainly of lightning, could probably just increase the intensity of his powers, but as far as lightning goes, I don't think he has much more powers than that. I mean, he's already made thunderstorms and hurricanes, and even tornadoes to go under the water. Piper. Piper's only power is Charm Speak. So, other than improving that, the only thing she can really do is maybe get prettier, but I don't think she has much unshown power. Frank. Frank's powers is being good with weapons, sometimes getting the Blessing of Mars, and being able to shapeshift, but I don't think he has any hidden talents. Hazel. Hazel has already expanded her powers past the ones that you get from Hades, being able to control the mist, but I think the only thing she could do maybe is create an army of gems to fight with her, which would be pretty cool. Leo. Leo, I think, could make so many cool things out of fire, and I think he, like Percy, could turn into pure fire, as he has already set his entire body on fire, and if that wasn't enough, he did it while in water. Now, the thing you and me both have been waiting so long for, the final results. The big question, who is the most powerful demigod of the 7? And that person is Percy. But at the same time, it's not Percy. See, Percy's extremely strong, but he is also one of the oldest demigods, the others not having as much time to develop their powers. But even so, I still think that Percy is the strongest, but there are so many other demigods that are close to his level, and maybe even stronger. So comment down below which other demigods I should put against Percy in a part 2. And if this video gets 100 likes, I'll do a part 2 with your suggestions. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed.